This time we are back on the hunt at the Carboots, and here's the thing, if you ever buy a console at a Carboot, it's always a gamble whether or not it will work. But here we have something which I've been hunting for absolutely years, and if this works, this could be my greatest Carboot find of all time.
Get pickups! Building the games room! Road trips! Live game hunting!
Hello again folks, and welcome back to another live game hunting video. And we are back hunting at the Carboot, but this time we are heading to the late one just outside Aylsham. Now the late one is a bit of a strange Carboot because it is just that. It is a late one. It has a strict 11 AM start, which means this time we have a little bit of a lay-in before we head out on the hunt. I don't say this lightly, but in this episode we could have my greatest find of all time at the Carboot, but you'll have to stick around to the end of the video to find out if the gamble pays off. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and please subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus content throughout the week, and I really want you folks along for the ride, and trust me, there's going to be many more Carboot hunts, hopefully, over the summer. Here we go then, just before 11 AM here at the late one in Aylsham. And as you can see by the car park, it was busy already. A lot of people get here for the start of the Carboot, so let's get stuck in. And straight away we've got some games for the PlayStation 4, but unfortunately nothing too exciting here. But first blood already. We have found some games on the first stall. I cannot believe how much the value of Grand Theft Auto 5 has dropped for CEX trade-in credit. And of course, if you are picking it up, make sure it has both discs. Now you know I'm a fan of retro games, but this is retro. This is well before my time. I've actually owned one of these database games computers before. It's kind of one of those generic consoles as such, was going around in the late 70s, early 80s, I think they were. Essentially, most of them just ripped off each other's games, so I did leave it behind. Now, here's something I'm seeing more and more of at Carboots, Hot Wheels, but let me know, is it ever worth picking these up? Couple of Wii games here, and most of these are kind of your standard shovelware, but one of these did stick out to me, just for the simple reason I'd never seen this game before, Emergency Heroes. And normally, when it comes to a game which I've never seen before, if it's cheap enough, I'm going to pick it up. I grabbed this for a quid because I've never seen it, and honestly, I'm pretty intrigued by this one. Here it is then, folks. This is what could be my best Carboot find of all time. Now, at first I thought it was just a box of PlayStation 3 games. I thought, oh, maybe I can grab one or two of these if the price is right, either to add to the collection or to trade into CEX. But you can see under these games is a console, and it's not just any PlayStation 3 console. This is the fully backwards compatible PlayStation 3. This is a very rare console, and it can command a very high price, but only if it's working. Let's see if the price is worth taking a gamble. Yeah, buddy, how much you got on your PlayStation? Are you selling the game? 15? Now at £15, I'm not often a gambling man, but for that price I will take a gamble. But you will have to stick around until the end of the video to see if the gamble pays off and it's working. Now this is something I didn't realise. DJ Hero, if boxed and complete for the Xbox 360, actually you can get some decent CEX credit for this. Unfortunately it was missing the game this time, and I know the game's cheap to replace, but I just couldn't be bothered to carry it around. But honestly, don't sleep on this one if it's complete. Now I see these on TikTok all the time, but comment below, are these kind of retro handhelds actually worth buying? Honestly, the menu music alone on that handheld was enough for me to leave it behind. This Simpsons t-shirt was super cool, but unfortunately it wasn't my size, so I did leave it behind, but it was very, very cool. Some more games here, but unfortunately nothing that I personally needed for the collection. These are the kind of games you are going to see a lot at Carboots, the kind of PlayStation filler titles, the sports games, the games that not many people want, and that unfortunately don't trade in very well to CX. But here is something you don't see very often: vintage toys at a Carboot. So I had to be eagle-eyed to spot this one, but this is a vintage TMNT Playmates figure from the early 90s. I picked this up for either 50p or £1, which for a vintage toy is an absolute steal. More games here, but unfortunately all of these were really, really overpriced, which you do see often at the Carboot. But here's the thing, if you can buy these games for less in CEX, why would anyone go to the Carboot and pick them up? It was a shame that Fallout New Vegas wasn't a bit cheaper, because this one is trading in for some decent credit at CX at the minute, but I did pass this time. Here's the thing, I don't mind paying up a little bit for certain games, but if it's like shovelware or games I see all the time, or games which I can get cheaper in CEX, I'm probably going to pass. The games here were priced a little bit high, but there was some really good bits, just nothing I really needed this time. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against resellers at the Carboots. They do the hard work, they find the games, and they just put a little bit of profit on top. Everyone wins as everyone gets to play. Some Xbox 360 controllers here, and I'm always on the lookout for these at the Carboot, as long as you can see the serial number and there's no major damage. So some of the thumbsticks on these ones were a little bit damaged, so I did pass. And I think this one had battery corrosion, which is a massive no-no if I ever see it. But let me know in the comments down below, do you pick these up to flip into CX? So again, some more games here, and again, not terrible prices, but normally when I'm hunting for games at the Carboot, I just like to find the 50p, the pound games. That's for me what Carboots are all about. Don't get me wrong, if there's a game I really want, I'm happy to pay up for it, but unfortunately this time, there was nothing on this store I was really looking for. But comment below if there's something which I've missed and that you would have picked up. A lot of Wii shovelware here, but don't sleep on these all the time. That's because some of these shovelware seemingly games are actually worth some decent credit in CX. I think it's Just Dance 2 or 3 at the moment, which is actually worth about £5 in trade. And if you can grab it cheap, it's worth getting. Comment below if you are like me and still collect CDs in 2024. First and foremost, I'm a collector of physical media, whether it be CDs, vinyl, or of course, video games, and there's nothing easier than just popping a CD into your car and listening to your favourite tracks on the move. Is it just me, or whenever you're at a car boot and you see a pile of games, you just have to go through it? 9 times out of 10 it is just sports games and filler titles, but it's that one time that makes the hunt worthwhile. But unfortunately this time, nothing really much to see here, but I always have a terrible FOMO, so I just had to know. And that same rule applies to games piled up on tables. You just know that I have to go through these piles to see if there's anything hiding. Now, don't get me wrong, there was some really, really good PlayStation 3 titles here, but my PlayStation 3 collection is pretty massive now, and I have most of the games I need. Now, another thing I always do at car boots is check boxes, as you never know what's hiding in these boxes. And here we have a PlayStation 5 game. Now, I don't see these very often at the car boot, and I wonder if I can get this for a cheap price. Yes, I know it's FIFA, but at the right price, it's a PlayStation 5 game at the car boot. How much was your FIFA? Quid, yeah. And for a quid for a PlayStation 5 game at the car boot, I just couldn't pass it up. This next stall had some really cool bits. I think they were both a collector and a reseller, and reselling is a great way to help build your collection. Now this brought back some real memories for me. I think this is a Scorpion light gun from the PlayStation 1. I think me and my friend had one of these as well as a G-Con back in the day, just because the Scorpion light gun was so much cheaper. Like I said, this store had some really, really cool bits. Nothing which I really needed for collection. It's good to see some amiibos. They were market value, but definitely cool to see. As well as an awesome selection of video games, this seller also had an awesome selection of retro toys. You can see here some Bucky O'Hare figures, which you do not see very often. If I'd been a Bucky O'Hare one, I would have probably picked that up. Some really cool old school annuals, just some really nice bits on this stall. Now, I went through a period of always picking up these steering wheels for the older consoles, the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, the N64, bits like that. Always picking them up if they were boxed and complete, and honestly, I think I have about 7 or 8 of these in the cupboard, so I did pass on this one, even though it was only 2 quid. Some Nintendo DS games here, and I think this is another thing I always have to do at car boots. I always have to look for these stacks on the off chance there might be a Pokemon game. I know the Professor Layton games aren't bad for trading to CX, but again, you never know. Some cool comic books here. I know I say this every episode when I see comic books, but I do not have the greatest knowledge of comic books, so this time I did pass. Some more games here, but just not really anything that was really that exciting. Darksiders 2 is a really good game, but I think I already have it in the collection for the Wii U and maybe also the Xbox 360, so I did pass on the PS3 version. But some nice games here, but there is nothing that puts a shiver down my spine more than hearing this from a seller. So there were some cool games here. I was wondering how much they are. Let's find out. How much your games?
Which one do you want, mate?
How much is that one?
This one? I think it's 22 quid still in CX. If I'm right. still holds its value, this does. It's really good.
Here's the thing, I understand people are looking for the best prices for their games, but if they're charging the same price as CX, chances are I'm going to go and buy it at CX. But we've got some more PlayStation 5 games here, so let's hope we can get these for a good price. How much you got in your games here?
It's 515 each, and this one's 5.
Okay, thank you. I don't suppose you do 10 on Dead Island, would you?
12?
Let me see if I've got some change. I was happy to pay up on Dead Island 2, as it is a game which I've been waiting literally years to play. But more about that when we get to the pickup. Some cool PlayStation 1 games here, including some Platinum games, which I've definitely been a fan of in the past, but thankfully have in my collection already. Some strategy guides here, but I am being a bit more picky with these, just because, if for no other reason, these strategy guides take up a lot of space, and space is becoming somewhat of a premium in the games room. Now, you can see here the telltale red spine of a PlayStation Essentials game. A lot of people are after these at the moment, and while I won't rule it out in the future, for the time being I'm passing on these, but who knows what the future may bring. Much like strategy guides, I'm being a bit more picky with what PC games I pick up. These take up a lot of room, and honestly, most of the time I'll never get around to playing some of these physical PC games, so I did pass on this one. This is something you don't see every day, a box of Game Boy shells. Now, the seller actually refurbishes Game Boys, which is really good, as these consoles obviously deteriorate over time, and I just love seeing people keeping the retro gaming dream alive, fixing them up. Slightly hypocritical, but our last pickup this time is a PC Steelbook, but come on folks, it is a Steelbook. How much is your game down here? Pound, yeah. Cool, I'll grab that one. There we have it then, folks. That was the late one Carboot here in Aylsham. But I'm sure we all only have one question on our minds. Does the PlayStation 3 work? Let's find out. Here we are then, back in the games room from the late one Carboot. And we will be finding out very soon if the gamble has paid off and if that PlayStation 3 works. And if it does, it is without a doubt my best Carboot find of all time. But before that, we've got a few more pickups to go through. First off, we have this Wii game right here, Emergency Heroes. Now, this is a Ubisoft game for the Wii, which I've never seen before. And when it comes to games I've never seen before, if I can pick them up cheap, I'm going to pick them up. And honestly, this one looked fairly interesting. It kind of looks like Burnout mixed with Need for Speed. But yeah, on the Wii, a game from Ubisoft I've never seen before. And for a quid, I had to pick it up. Next up, we have a vintage TMNT action figure, and it goes to show it's always worth hunting through these boxes of random toys and figures to see what you can find. So this is Toka, and this is the Mutations figure. So it's kind of like a Transformer. I think the shell opens up, the head swap and bits like that. It generally took me about 5 minutes to transform this, so I'm not doing it again now. Not my favourite TMNT character of all time, because I have no idea why they replaced Bebop and Rocksteady with these people in Secret of the Ooze, but there we go. It is 1993 Playmates. It was just a quid, and I'm just going to add it to my TMNT action figure collection. Next up, we have some PlayStation 5 games, and honestly, I'm kind of surprised to be seeing these already at the car boot, but I guess for a lot of people, they just play their games, they want to sell them on and just make the space, because game collecting does take a lot of space. So first off, we have FIFA 21, which, to be honest, I did just pick up because it was a PlayStation 5 game for just a quid. I'm sure it's probably worth about that, but there we go. The second game we picked up, though, is Dead Island 2. Now, I've been excited for Dead Island 2 for about 15 years because I think this got announced quite shortly after Dead Island came out that there was going to be a sequel. And I think I pre-ordered Dead Island 2 on Amazon about 12 years ago. They still haven't actually fulfilled my pre-order. So when I found this one at the car boot, I was super pleased. So I managed to talk the lady down from 15 to 12 for this one, which I didn't realise at the time is still an absolute bargain. This game is £25 still at CX, and honestly, I'm really looking forward to jumping to this one and mashing up some zombies. Just one more pickup before we get into the main event. It is this Battlefield 4 Steelbook. This is for the PC version of the game, but honestly, I'm just such a fan of Steelbooks. For a quid, I had to pick this one up. Here we go then, folks, the main event of this episode. Let's find out if the gamble worked. So I picked up that PlayStation 3 with no controller, no leads, untested, and a bundle of games. here's the thing, the person on the stall picked it up from a house clearance. They haven't tested it, they have no idea if it works, so they just priced it at 15 quid, which I was happy to pay, because if the console works, it is going to be my best Carboot find of all time. But regardless, at least we also have this bundle of games. So a lot of these games I do already have in the collection, such as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, which sadly trades into CX for 1p. Call of Duty Black Ops, again, 1p trade-in credit. Continuing the theme, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 also trades in for 1p. So what I'll probably do is either keep these to bundle up in the future, or just take them to a charity shop to make the space. Then we have some games which do trade in for some decent money. These are games I don't already have in the collection. So Sega Rally trades in for £1.60, I think. Absolutely fantastic arcade racing game. This one surprised me though. Call of Duty 3 for the PlayStation 3 still trades in for £5, so definitely one to keep an eye out for. But we also have some games that I can add here to the collection, including Conflict Denied Ops, which I'm really excited to play, as I really enjoyed the Conflict Desert Storm games back on the OG Xbox. Sega Superstars Tennis, which has an amazing House of the Dead themed tennis game, absolutely sublime. FIFA 14, it's a FIFA game I don't own, going to add it to the PS3 collection. Medal of Honor Warfighter, a divisive game, let's go with that. Brothers in Arms, Hell's Highway, an absolutely fantastic World War II shooter, and honestly, in the present climate when we don't get any World War II shooters anymore, it's good to have. And then finally we have a sealed PlayStation 3 game. This is a legit seal. You can see the PlayStation tear off tag there. Kane and Lynch for the PlayStation 3. This is new and sealed. I don't really collect new and sealed games, so I'll probably sell this one very soon. To get in touch if you are a sealed PlayStation 3 collector. Here it is then, folks, in all its glory. The 60GB PlayStation 3 with the PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility. That means this is the best PlayStation 3 to add to your collection, as it is fully backwards compatible for the PlayStation 1, the PlayStation 2, and of course the PlayStation 3. Now this is the most expensive and most wanted PlayStation 3 for most collectors, and there's a few things to keep an eye out for if you are hunting for this console. So first and foremost, at the front here, with a lot of consoles this is sealed, but on this one it does open up, and in there you can see there's a card reader, as well as another thing to keep an eye out for on the consoles is under here there should be 4 USB slots. If there's 4 USB slots and this opens, you know you have the PlayStation 2 backwards compatible PlayStation 3. Also keep an eye on the serial number. On the back here it should be the Czech C04. It's very important because a lot of these consoles look very, very similar, but this is the only one which can play PlayStation 2 games. So the question is, does it work? This is the big question then. Does the console work? So remember, I paid £15 for this console along with a bundle of games. It was sold as untested, and honestly, I had very little faith it was going to work, but I'm happy to announce this console does in fact work. Every single part of this console is perfectly working. I have tested this with PlayStation 1 games and it works absolutely fantastically. PlayStation 2 games, most importantly, work and look absolutely sublime on this. This is probably going to be now my go-to console to play PlayStation 2 games. That's because it slightly upscales them, and honestly, even on a 65-inch 4K TV, these games now look really, really nice. And of course, this does play PlayStation 3 games. I have been hunting for this model of PlayStation 3 for absolutely years. The number of times I've picked up the wrong console, or I've picked up the console and it hasn't worked, has blown me away. And this is going nowhere. This would trade into CEX for a lot of money, but this is staying in my collection because for me, this is the optimal PlayStation 3 console. There we have it then, folks. It is not very often I'm a gambling man, but this time the gamble paid off. Now, the stakes weren't exactly very high, only £15, but the payoff was big. But let me know in the comments down below, would you personally have taken a risk on this PlayStation 3? And also let me know what your biggest gamble was recently at the car boots, and more importantly, if it paid off. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe, stay tuned for more Carboot videos throughout the summer, and as always, keep playing the game. See you soon.